What is the evolutionary benefit of God?
Framework that was needed in the older ages, to ensure that society sort of all go to a prosperous future.
Is global warming real? Why do we believe what we believe?
I think global warming is a bit of a money-making scheme. Anyway.
And in essence, life almost has rules, even though it's not like explicitly said if you're not religious. What does tire companies have to do with restaurants? And why are diamonds worthless? Why do we have religion?
Talking about is the actual how they're getting the lithium out of the ground. That's the real shit part. And that's the part that resonates with me more. So the whole sustainability is a big thing. Even in e-commerce now, people are trying to offset their carbon footprints and sourcing sustainable materials to make their products worth and conveying that message. But what I find, it's more important for a lot of these organizations to be able to tick the box, to be able to say that they are, rather than to, like, that's their focus, more than let's make it an ethos and just try and source ethically sourced products, right? It's more like, no, what do we need to do to be able to tick that box?
Those are subjects we explore in this podcast, and if you'd like to find the answers, you got to come on the journey with us. Yeah, we've started.
Interesting.
Yeah. So what do you think is the evolutionary benefit of God?
That's one hell of a start to this conversation. The evolutionary benefit.
Baby steps, bro.
The concept of a God.
Whatever you want.
I think it's a little bit to, I don't know, keep society in check to a certain degree and keep them accountable to something. Because, if we don't hold ourselves accountable to something or someone, then quite often we don't have a lot of direction, So I think, to pull it back to your religion thing, which I don't know how we started on that. By the way, if you're listening, I walked in the room and he just started talking about religion. Anyway, like I said, I think it's a framework that was needed in the older ages, to ensure that society sort of all go to a prosperous future. And it was sort of a framework that was put in place. Because, it doesn't matter which religion you look at, right? Like the 10 commandments, they're pretty constant throughout. And even if you ask someone who's not religious, but who live a good life and, don't fuck around, for lack of a better word, a lot of the stuff that they'll tell you that helps them to be a better person sort of all relates back to those 10 commandments, love your neighbor, blah, blah, blah. I don't even remember the other 9. Just
it all relates.
Just love your neighbor, mate.
You didn't come prepared with the 10 commandments, bro? The fuck? I thought I warned you.
You got so many books in here, you don't have a Bible we can refer to?
Yeah, we got... Maybe. Nah, I don't think we do.
Fair enough.
That would have been good, eh? Just quote things from the Bible.
Yeah.
Essentially, someone told me this concept of the bicameral mind, and this might offend a few people, but the bicameral mind, have you ever heard of it?
Nope.
So the idea is you have 2 hemispheres in your brain, left and right, and there's a divide between them, so you're able to visually understand things and logically and conceptualize things because there's a divide. Now, what they're suggesting is prior to the agricultural evolution, and I'm not going to lose you.
No, I'm loving this.
Are you? You're thriving?
Yeah.
You're in your moment?
Yeah.
That before we had agriculture, we didn't have as much carbohydrate in our diet. So now we're getting a whole lot of carbohydrate, which solidifies the left and right hemisphere. If you don't have that, then it's hard for you to differentiate between visual miracles, shall we say, things that you witnessed, and the conceptual reality of it.
Okay.
So you might have had these miracles of people walking on water, turning, water to wine.
Yeah.
That could be that, but it's a theory.
Yeah.
And we can move on from it. But what do you think is you talked about something interesting, the 10 commandments. Do you think there's a natural order of things in life where if you do harm, there's consequences for it? And in essence, life almost has rules, even though it's not explicitly said if you're not religious.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just like a game. There's many different tracks. There's many different routes you can take based on some, crossroads that you come. You got to make decisions, right? And I think whatever decision you make at that stage has an impact on your entire life from that moment onwards. That's why there are those people who talk about an infinite amount of universes with an infinite amount of instances like what we live in now.
Sorry, you're doing so well.
Happening right next to each other.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So you laugh at me and then I think like, oh shit, what am I talking about?
No, I'm laughing because I put you in a horrible situation, but I'm loving it.
Okay, no, that's
you
cool.
Keep going.
Yeah, so I think, like, to answer your question, I think that framework is really there. But even if you even if you have no religious past, you have no idea about the Bible, you just look at what a good human's traits are. And yeah, there's definitely that sort of framework to better yourself. And I think humans have the need, like, deep inside of us we want to be better. There's a very small subset of us that usually sit behind bars that don't, or make wrong decisions. But I still think that, it's something that's deep built into all of us, that, you just want to do good.
So do you think, humans have an inherent desire to do good?
Yeah.
I come from the place from humans have an selfish inherent desire that is benefited by helping others.
Okay, that's true as well, because we like to feel good, right? A lot of the times people will do things that others perceive as, oh, they're such a good person. But I think there is definitely a selfish aspect to that, because, the older you get, the more your frontal lobe sort of expands. I think, like, sort of for males from, like, I know I was
mine's shrinking,
colourful past in my 20s, but definitely I could look back now and I can tell, like, I'm much more... I think things through a lot more, So, yeah, as that frontal lobe develops, then it just allows us to make better decisions going forward. But yes, there's definitely a selfish part to that. I can see where you're coming from.
You don't have to agree. The best podcast is where we don't agree.
Right.
So and you can tell me I'm a dickhead too. I'll listen. If it's
I've
true,
only known
it's true.
you for like 7 minutes.
Yeah, but we cold call for 5, so now it's 12.
That's right.
We're best friends.
That's probably the reason why I came on here, is because you mentioned, cold calling, and I always respect anyone who does cold calling, because I've done so much of it. Like I think in one of your podcasts, you mentioned you've spoken to 100,000 people.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah.
And that made me think, because I started going, okay, 90 calls a day.
Yeah.
Like, damn, I have talked to a lot of people.
Sounds cool too.
But it's funny though, like, because I think we have a major advantage over other people, and it comes to those personality types as well. Like people who are more outgoing, tend to find themselves in these more sales-oriented roles, because they constantly need to chase something, And I don't know if you were the same in your sales or cold calling days, where you are more of a, I don't know if you are, I'm more of a relationship creator than a relationship nurturer, if that's even a concept. I'm more like a hunter than a farmer.
One-night stander, that's what you are. A lot of broken hearts in the background.
No, definitely not. Definitely not when it comes to relationships. I think more in business. I'm actually the opposite with relationships, which is interesting. I am the... fall in love super easily. I'm like, and then I'm all in. All my cards are on the table.
Telling all your mates, like,
and asking her. And more often than not, it's a bit of an off-putting thing. But no, I've only had long-term relationships, never like really short ones.
Wow.
But even business relationships, I think, is the same. I like to know that I'm out there hunting for new work, because people have a requirement to fill, and then have a team behind you that you are confident in can then nurture that relationship ongoing. I think that's an important part too, because otherwise you're just going out there getting new business, palming them off to someone, and then on to the next, and that's just as bad as not looking after them in the long run. So yeah.
Thanks. Well, just to give you more context of me, because you don't know anything.
Yeah.
So I had $20 and I was living in a tent, and I wrote down what I wanted.
Come a long way.
Yeah. Now I've got stuff. Yeah. And I was living in a tent, and I worked out what I wanted to do in life and the steps for it, because I was going to pitch my mum for money.
Okay.
Because I paid for uni. She said she would.
Right.
So I was like, fucking, here's a good pitch. Sent it to her, and she said no. But the plan was to give every person the opportunity to live a fulfilling life. The first step was to do commission-only sales, because people scared me.
Okay.
So I'm not extrovert. I'm introverted as fuck.
Yeah. I could kind of tell.
Yeah, you can sense it.
Yeah,
Good man. Yeah. Nah, not that. That's how introverts talk.
No, but I can tell you're introverted, and you're definitely, you put yourself out there. But like,
interesting.
Yeah, it's not like you're not super comfortable with it. Like it's something you have to work on,
Yeah.
where I think some people are just easy at that. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Good. No, I'm glad I'm awkward. That's what I wanted to give off.
Nice.
That comes from all the calls you've done. Like if I think about, so then I got a job, spent $2 on a tie, so I had $18 in commission sales. And then I worked for APCO. I don't know if you know them.
APCO.
APCO. Yeah, the largest face-to-face marketing company no one's ever heard of.
Yeah. I do. They're Great North Road, were they?
I worked in Australia. They
Oh.
changed the name because they had a class action against them for not treating contractors like employees.
Okay, right. So this was over in Aussie.
This is over in Aussie. They're in 27 countries.
Okay, yeah.
Like they're pretty much like if you see them on the streets, probably them.
Right. Is it the World Wildlife Fund, those types of...
Yeah. So
they're all contracted out, basically.
yeah, Heart Research Institute, Breast
Yeah.
Cancer Foundation,
Yeah,
Canteen.
Yeah. No, I know
Smith
the ones.
family.
I had a job. Well, I went for a first day. They hired me. The first day we walked in, and it was big kumbaya. Bells smacking on the walls, people who have hit their targets, and they really G you up, and then you all go out to your separate things. And then when they sent everyone out to their separate stations that we're now going to go to, I just dipped.
Oh, you left. You didn't do the thing. Well, you chose. So you denied that one, but you chose credit card insurance.
Oh, that was...
You're like, nah, fuck that. This is my calling.
That was off air. That was actually after the credit card insurance. Yeah. But anyway,
well, let's talk about it on
I was
here.
very young at the time, but I feel like I'm interrupting your story now with the $18. I want to know the end of that.
So essentially, I had no finesse, and I would stand like this when I talk to people.
Yep.
And I was so nervous. The first guy I tried to stop, they say you got to build a relationship.
Yep.
And I went to shake his hand, but he was holding fucking shopping bags, and his thumb was up. So I just grabbed it, shook it, because I was nervous as fuck. And he's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, trying to build a relationship." That was my first one.
That's not much better than the cold call you gave me for this podcast, to be honest. Anyway, go.
Yeah, but I did 10 exceptional ones before that. Nah, I stumbled, do good.
That's good.
And then started to work it out, and then we started recruit and train, and had a team of 15, and I trained them to do commission only sales.
Yep.
And then a whole lot of career of selling. But going back to you, because I love sales, because sales is just caring more about the person in front of you, and having conviction in the product that you sell. Because you need to care more than them to push them.
Exactly.
So let's go back to your sales career. What was your first one? Was it credit card insurance? Cause that's
Yeah, it
tough.
was.
That's
Yeah,
fucked.
it was
And it's
for a
cold calling?
It was for a company called Telnet, just on Hobson Street, close
Shout
to
out.
here. I don't even know if they're there yet. If they still are, okay, cool. Yeah, I have no idea. But anyway, it's a call center, and one of their clients was Visa and Amex. And this was at the same time as me studying to be a chef. So I did a culinary arts course at AUT. So I'm talking like 18, 19 at the time, and so needed to make some money, and so I had that job. So started at sort of 5 p.m, finished around about 9 o'clock, calling everyone while they're trying to have dinner, trying to sell them credit card repayment insurance. And you're just reading from a script. I had no sales skills, nothing at all, but actually was pretty good at it, because I could just talk to people. I can easily pick up the phone and just start asking questions, talk to people. This is how I ended up here with you today. Really, know nothing about you, but had a good conversation on the phone. And when I finished being a chef, I hated it. When I finished studying to be a chef, I'd worked in that industry a little bit as well, and I just hated it. I just couldn't work underneath people who shout at you to get something done.
Yeah.
Work from 7 a.m. till 11 o'clock at night, that type of thing. So I really early on just decided, nope.
Smart.
I'd say my first real sales job was for Vodafone. So after I'd finished this chefing thing, I was still living at home. I said to my dad, I was like, I'm not going to be a chef. Sorry. I wanted to be Jamie Oliver. I was like, I'm not going to be Jamie Oliver, Dad. Sorry, man. And he said, well, then if you're not going to keep studying, then you got to move out. So I said, well, can you give me 6 months at least, like trying to get myself back on my feet? I'm 20 years old at the time. And so we still had like an old laser inkjet printer. I'm talking about sort of 2003 now.
Oof.
Printed out some CVs. I think I printed out 10. Very ambitious, right? And I took my car and I drove all the way out to Manukau Supercenter. And I just decided, like, if there's a place that I want to work, where do I want to work? And I loved phones. Like, at the time, 2003, you're talking 3G.
Oof.
Cameras just became a thing on a phone, and you
Snake?
could take... Snake was still a thing on most of the phones, but there was this 10% of phones that were flip top and color screens. Anyway, I really loved it. And so I said, no, I'm going to go to this place. And I must have, you said it earlier, I must have just, my vision towards this must have, I conceptualized it so much that I was successful, because at the first place I walked into, the Vodafone store was still being built. And I asked the tradies there, I was like, who owns this store? Do you guys know? And they said, well, it's actually just a little bit further on Lambie Drive. They've got their current store, but they're moving here once it's finished. I walked straight there, walked straight in, said, hey guys, I see you're building a new store just down the road. Looks fucking amazing. It was like the first standalone Vodafone store. And the lady lives there. She said, well, go sit over there and I'll be with you in about 5 minutes. And this was prior to the days of there being like a 90-day trial period that, like, you know, is now law. And she said, so why do you want to work here? I said, because I love phones. And love technology, always have. And then she asked me a bit about my background, and she's like, well, you got no experience. But I'll tell you what, we'll put you on a 3-month trial. The store's opening in 2 weeks' time at that new location. We'll do a bit of a training with you beforehand, and then you just rip straight into it. And yeah, that's where my sales career kicked off in retail. And yeah, the rest is history since then. I've never really left sales, to be honest. I've bounced around many different sales environments and products and sort of industries. But yeah, I love sales too, because I think everyone's a salesperson at the end of the day. If you have to convince someone to do something, you're selling, right? And so if you can do that in the best way possible, then yeah. Plus it pays good, right?
Yeah.
Normally. Well, usually, shall I say.
Depends what you're flogging. But mostly, if you're any good, you should be able to, because then they wouldn't exist.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The worst is when you make more than the boss, and that's when you start having problems. They're like, oh, why the fuck never passed the master?
I've had that.
Yeah,
I've had that
I believe
happen.
you.
Yeah, I've had that happen.
But yeah,
that's how I sort of ended up in e-commerce today, which essentially is selling online and like, to basically help other business owners sell as much as they can online. I have a real passion for that now, rather than the actual art of selling, because I've done the David Foremans, I've done the Mark Brewers, I've done all sorts of online sales courses, and you know, different organizations put you through different sales training, and you pick little parts through that you use, and I think still probably forms part of sort of how I sell stuff today, really.
Interesting, because I'd be curious what you think. I think marketing is good sales.
Yep.
Because, you know, if you can convey that you understand a person and their problem, and then give them the social proof or reassurance you can achieve the solution to that problem, that's the same as sales.
Fully agree with you. And yeah, if you can like turn that into marketing collateral and wrap a story around it, that's what people relate to. You know, selling on product like benefits and features and benefits is retail sales, right? Like, this phone has got all the buttons and it's got a camera and it's 1 megapixel and it flips open, that type of thing. Whereas I think moving to what I sell today is complete smoke and mirrors, because people aren't buying an actual product, and I think that's one of the hardest things to sell. And also sort of, you know, then giving that knowledge to business owners out there to then sell their products as well. We talked a little bit about Gary Vee, and one of the things that I've learned from him is brand is everything. Doesn't matter like who you are, personal brand, company you work for. If you've got a product like, say, a Nike, you know, everything is brand, and it's a marketing of that brand, but also the reputation, you know, that thing has. So I think sales is probably marketing 100%, but then it's also, you got to back that up with proof. Like, cool, it's not just stories. You've actually done this for who, what were the results, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, like if you have an exceptional product or service, it's just a matter of getting it in front of people initially, and then it sort of leads itself. People still need to be reassured. Like, sales still exists in some component.
Absolutely.
Like, if you didn't need to convince them, then you wouldn't need a salesperson. There's not too many people that are like, yo, here's 30 grand. What are you going to do? Oh, like, this is their website. Here's the money. Yeah. I mean, I don't think.
No, it is. I think if we relate it back to websites or e-commerce websites specifically, I think it is really applying all the knowledge that you have to that particular merchant's current state, right? And saying, cool, this is where you want to be. This is where you are now. These are the types of things that we can do in the meantime, and we can work out a roadmap, but it's so hard to ring fence any of that because technology changes so fast that by the time you're 3 or 6 months into that strategy, something new comes in that impacts it. So you got to be able to be agile at the same time. But yeah, I mean, selling websites or e-commerce solutions, as I like to call it more, is interesting. Back in the day, we sold just websites like Mechanic, 5-page. You need a homepage, you need a page for your services, you need a contact page, and you need to like do a couple of photo shoots, and bam, it's online for you, you know. Now, when you're working with much larger brands selling to the entire world, those strategies are quite different. So bring it back to what you said before. Marketing is sales, but I also think there's a component to sales, which is the psychology of sales, knowing how to take someone on a journey because to get the outcome that you're looking for, right? Because if you hand that control back to the person through the cycle, then you're just going to jump all over the place the whole time and never actually get the end result, which, I mean, as a salesperson, you got to be selfish as well a little bit because you want to not just have conversations with people because that's not what you get paid for, right? Yeah. You want an outcome at the end of the day. And that's a tricky one. And I so sort of since I'd say for the last 5 years, that's something that's really intrigued me is more the psychology around how can you own a conversation, things like tonality, things like presentation skills, those softer skills throughout. Because if you know what you're selling, you know the product inside and out, you can be an expert on it. But if you don't know how to convey that or take someone on a journey to understand it with you, then you're just flogging a dead horse, basically.
Yeah, no, valid. You said, controlling sales is something interesting.
Yeah.
I sort of, the best thing I've heard around the directing a conversation is your job as a salesman isn't to sell, it's to get a decision.
Very true, yeah.
Which could be not to buy from you. Because we're truth tellers in essence.
Exactly, yeah. And there's many, many instances where, you know, you can see that this is not actually going to go anywhere. Yeah. And I have got an arrow on my arm. I usually just go, hey, look, I'm a straight shooter, right? So I can tell right now, in order for us to actually be able to go to the next steps, like these are the blockers. And unless we can agree to like smoothing those out or make some adjustments to, you know, your expectations, then unfortunately that's a hurdle that we're not going to be able to go past, which in our world, you know, we're a Shopify Plus partners. There's like 4 or 5 of us in the country. There's lots of people that sell websites. I mean, in Auckland, I think there's something like 800 registered agencies, you know, that make websites. So why would you come to our business to build your website? And I think it's that understanding of the technology, the reputation of who have you worked with in the past, what were the outcomes of that, and then also being able to relay that to a merchant, because merchants tend to be entrepreneurs, especially when you're dealing with mom and pop, but also when you're dealing with a marketing manager or an e-com manager, you know, they're responsible within their organizations for that revenue that needs to be made from the site. And so if you can convey the message that, hey, we're here to assist you to look good in your organization, and these are the things that we're going to do, but you still run into those blockers. You still sometimes have conversations with people that just go around in circles and going around in circles, and then sometimes you just have to go, hey, just stop. What are we missing here? And, you know, basically sort of internalize it and look at yourself. Like, what have I missed? Why aren't they getting it? That type of thing.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, one of the things early on in a salesperson's training, they want to learn how to overcome obstacles, even though that's not necessarily the first thing they should know. Like if you have all the right tonality, you convey the product in the right way, and you build trust, the only objection you really have is I can't afford it, or it's not right for me. Yeah. But what would be your process for overcoming obstacles? Personally, I find solving it before they present it's a lot easier than trying to convince them they're wrong. Yeah. How do you solve an objection?
How do you solve an objection?
You can pick one if you want. I need to talk to the business owner or whatever.
Yeah, well, I think it's understanding their situation, putting yourself in their shoes. I think I've got an advantage there where, you know, like I've helped family build e-commerce sites as an example. So I know the types of struggles that they had in setting up the business, sourcing the products, et cetera, et cetera. And look, you're not going to be able to overcome every obstacle, or objection. So I think it's also knowing when the product is fit for purpose. As soon as it's not, and you're still trying to, you know, get a result out of it, you're either going to do one of two things. You're going to have to lie, right? Or they're going to end up with a product that doesn't fulfill exactly what they came to you for, which is really the reason why I do what I do. and I've tried my hand at many, many different things. It's because and the reason why I'm actually here is because the podcast is called New Zealand Business Owners Podcast, right? As corny as it sounds, the thing that makes me get out of bed in the morning is the feeling like what I had earlier today, where I was able to present a solution to a big business, and I was like the adrenaline that you get afterwards, knowing that they got what you said, and they're in a better place now after talking to you. And if we pull that back to business owners, why I like dealing with, like, I do my own websites on the side as well through a little side hustle, as I mentioned. I loved working with business owners there because there's something in me that I want to help people. Like in my younger years, I did youth groups, right? So we talked about religion. Well, I was actually coming from South Africa to here. A lot of people are religious. So we sort of slotted into the environment here. And church is a good place to get yourself connected, right? Now I was like 16,
you used
17.
God to get connections, right?
Basically. But to try and get like friends and, be part of the community. And so I ran youth groups, and I really got a kick, even in those days, out of like helping younger people who are like going off the rails, even though I myself went off the rails many, many times since then as well. But I think it was a selfish thing because I got a kick out of that. And so I get a kick out of working with a business owner saying, mate, you got this shit WordPress website right now. You're flogging heaps of money into it. You're not getting the results. Let's reset it. Get you onto Shopify. Shameless plug. Get you onto Shopify. We're going to install this, and that. And then actually talking to them 90 days afterwards, seeing the impact that it had. That is such a good feeling that, I love the sales psychology side of it, but I love the pat on the back 90 days later from them going, it was the best decision I ever made, And it's 80-20. There's many, many times when you do it, you cannot please everyone, and there's some people it's never going to be happy. But that's really why I do what I do, essentially. And I love working with especially New Zealand business owners, because I think New Zealand business owners are a little bit different because we have customers in Asia, the US, in Europe. It's very different conversation, even sometimes Australia as well, whereas New Zealand's very much like word of mouth and, people trust you much, much easier, much faster. We're lucky in this country. And so when you do get that opportunity to take a business owner on a journey and give them a good outcome, even just that pat on the back, forget about the money that they gave you, forget about all of that. That can buy you nice to haves. But when you want to go to sleep at night or wake up in the morning and go, what am I doing today? Why am I doing what I'm doing today? Those are the things that really make you get up in the morning, yeah.
Well, you highlighted one of the main reasons great salespeople come unstuck. So when they first come into an organization, they're off. Yeah. They believe in what the person says, and then the product doesn't deliver on what they thought. They lose hope and stop selling as well. Yeah. Because you talked about tonality and all that thing. Like if you genuinely believe you're helping them and have conviction, your tonality's aligned.
Pretty much.
What would be your biggest lessons around selling? Because, conviction's important, tonality. There's macro things. Are there things you're learning like mirroring and matching, matching their tonality, saying their name?
No, not really. I mean,
you just wing. You're intuitively talented.
I see a lot of. I get it from my mum. Honestly, it's like she's to thank. My mum's always been in sales, always been in marketing. Oh, yeah. So when I was off to be a chef, my dad's a journeyman. He's the company man. He's worked for Fletcher Construction for like 16, 17 years since we moved here. Still works for them, and he wanted me to just get into a business, work your way up the ladder. Have a solid foundation and then be stuck there. That's how I always looked at it anyway. My mum was the other side. She was sales, marketing, entrepreneur. She had her own, she had a boutique home and living store recently. Back in South Africa, she had her own baked goods business type thing as well, and like selling little handcrafted stuff, that type of thing. So she's always had that, and I've always leaned more to her side of like the traits that I inherited from my parents. I've just always been able to easily talk to people. So I see these things all the time where it's all like, you should focus on these things, or what do you think about that? And I listen to it, or I hear it, but I don't actually listen to it. So when people like you reference that, I'm like, yeah, I've heard that before. I don't really pay attention to that, I think it's, for me, what the art of selling comes down to for me, and this is not for everyone, It's getting people to trust you, right? And in order to get people to trust you, what do you need to do? You need to be approachable. You need to be able to listen to what they have to say, relate to their situation that they're in, and then offer a solution based on that. I think where salespeople come unstuck is they try to fit a round peg in a square hole, so a square peg in a round hole.
That
Is that
one.
what that
The
one?
second one's, you nailed it.
English is not my first language.
Yeah, your Afrikaans is hidden well, brother.
Yeah, nice. That's 23 years or so now living over here. So I think I'm lucky in that sense. I think a lot of that came naturally. But I mean, don't get me wrong. It takes a lot of practice, and it's still a lot of hard work. You can have all the talent in the world, if you don't believe in what you're selling. And I've had that happen to me many, many times where, you have a few good projects, you have a few bad projects, and then those customers call you back, and you've got to deal with the objections and the drama from that. And then when you lose confidence in what you're selling, it's impossible to sell.
Yeah.
Like, it's really hard. You don't want to wake up in the morning. You don't want to go to work. You almost become an introvert yourself. And if you're not used to being that, it's not a nice place to be in,
No, it doesn't sound like rays of sunshine. That's what it's been the last year for me, actually.
Has it?
Yeah, I've changed
Well,
I'll tell you more. Yeah, good listening. I've changed the business 5 times. I'll get a client and I'm not happy with the outcome. So then I'll say to them, hey, this isn't right for you. I'm going to have to change. What can I do to help you feel comfortable that I'm moving on? Next one. Fuck. Because so that's always been quite an interesting journey. So it's down to the point now where I'm comfortable with where I just turn up to a business, no prep needed, 60 minutes recording, all their content's done for the month.
Nice.
So we turn it around in one day.
Great.
But I'm just curious on your journey in selling or in business is what has been your limiting belief that you've had to overcome that was the 80-20? So
the limiting belief that I had to overcome.
Well, the thing that you find yourself falling into that is the constant battle because you're like, I'm just a natural. I just communicate. I don't have any structure.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I'm not very good at working out. I'm very good at looking at the outcome and going, I know exactly what needs to happen in order to get us there. But I'm not very good at actually putting that down into like action or steps, stuff like that. I think salespeople, if we can call ourselves that, is not, we hate paperwork, right? But more often than not, when you're dealing with a business owner who need to make financial decisions on stuff, they need that, right? So I suck at documenting things. I suck at putting in steps on how we're going to achieve the desired outcomes that we have. I've definitely gotten better at it over time. And so, yeah, I don't even know if that answers your question, but I feel like you've just made me think about some stuff, which is like probably another thing is I don't focus on my weaknesses, which can be a good and a bad thing. I think because if you focus on your weaknesses, don't put them front of mind, but you need to be aware of them so that you can actually do things to harness that if that makes sense.
No, it does. Like I have a mistake in the opposite direction where I would always try and fix my weakness instead of double down the strength and identify things that are wrong instead of focusing on things that are right. So I've learned that actually focusing on the strength and hiring the weakness is a much faster way to achieve what you want in life.
Nice. I was actually going to add that in there, and that is that if you identify like you're not good at these things, make sure that they still get done as part of the process because then you're going to get a good outcome. And so, yeah, that type of, realizing that you're not good at a particular component, but then maybe, like you said, hire or outsource or just tap into people you work with. Say, hey, how would you approach this? Because quite often I think you could probably see I'm very strong-minded. I'm like, I know what I'm doing, blah, blah, blah. I think it's actually understanding that, no, you're not. You think you are. But when you actually bounce ideas and get other people's perspective, it can actually expose like, oh, this might be good to make that as part of the process as well. So, yeah.
So what would you think would be the pros and cons of the mindset you develop? So to give you an example, there was a guy from Flow Marketing. His father died when he was 18 and he just had a newborn and he's living with his father and working with him. So he's like, fuck. So ever since then, he's been very regimented in the way he controls his mind. He doesn't allow positive or negative. He's just like, it is what it is.
Wow. Okay.
Which impacted his ability to foster meaningful connections because he was always at a distance. So I'm wondering if your mindset, what led to you developing it and the benefit of it, and then the cost that comes with it and how you manage that.
Yeah, I think my understanding of your question, and I'll try and answer it, is probably not saying yes to everything, learning how to say no, right?
Okay.
I think that is probably one of the biggest hurdles that I've had to do, because you always want to please someone. Or if you think like, yes, it's possible, you don't actually go and investigate it thoroughly, and you go, yeah, we'll be able to do that type of thing. And then realizing how much that bites you in the ass later on, and then having to deal with that over and over. I think that has, not only from a business point of view, but even personally, changed me to overanalyze things a little bit more upfront now, and actually go, if it sounds too good to be true, then it usually is. Where there's smoke, there's fire. So if there's a couple of uncertainties, those are the things you need to focus on. Or if there's something you really don't want to do, that's probably what you should be doing, right? Not just the stuff that you actually want to do, because then you are probably just facilitating your own ego the whole time. So focusing on the things that you don't actually want to do, and knowing that, I think through some personal learnings and stumbles that I had through my early career, which is all out there for the world to see anyway. Online these days, you can't really hide.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the biggest learnings that I had, is stop saying yes, because the stuff that got me in trouble in my personal life was because I just said yes. It's all good. We'll jump in the car tonight, boys. I'll drive. It's fine. It's just around the corner, that type of thing. And then boom, around the corner, there's a cop stop. And it's like, well, why did you want to please everyone and take all the risk on yourself? And all you could have said is no. And the trajectory of your life from that point onwards would have been so different,
Yeah.
So, I don't know if that answered your question.
No, you did.
You're very philosophical, man. I love it.
Yeah.
I don't know why New Zealand business owners want to listen to us talk about philosophies, but try and add some value back to them anyway,
Well, believe it or not, from all the business owners I've spoken to, the two biggest reasons they're not successful is their belief in their skills.
Interesting. Jeez.
More often than not, it's their belief. So you resonating with them in some component and identifying that issue and how you rectify it will hit someone in that pocket.
No, that makes sense. And actually, I can relate that back, because, man, I deal with some companies sometimes where especially if it's a business owner, you're like, how did you get to where you are based on what you've been doing so far? And one thing I hate seeing is seeing companies, whether they're large or small, throw away money. And man, the larger a company gets, the more you see that, and it's so frustrating when they then come to you and you see holes in their business, and you can put a dollar sign next to that, and then they want to negotiate about $5,000. It's just like, you have no idea.
Yeah. I was talking to people that work with the warehouse group.
Oh, nice.
Do their marketing, spends millions of dollars. They just added dollars and cents at a point so they could tick the box of what the warehouse wanted.
Yep.
So they didn't add any more value.
Facilitating an internal process that was done by a previous regime and has just become part of the norm now, and there is a box that needs to be ticked. It's crazy. Again, shameless plug, I don't know why, but obviously because I work in the industry, Shopify at the start of the year, on the 3rd of January, when everyone came back, because Kiwis and Aussies have long breaks over then. The Americans just have a short little New Year's break, right? They have 2 or 3 days off, and then they're back at it. Everyone got back to work on the 3rd of January. Every meeting where there were more than 3 people was culled from everyone's calendars. And Slack is the sort of internal messaging channel that they use. Every channel that had more than 3 people in it also got deleted. And they installed a Chrome extension on everyone's device, was mandatory, which when you're in a meeting, calculates the cost of that meeting, right? And all of a sudden, you started seeing these meetings, and people were responsible for that cost. So people were having 30-minute meetings that could be done in 7, right? But they were scheduled for 30. So they sit and they talk about the weather, and they're sitting, how's your kids and all of that. And then when Shopify looked at 2,400 staff all around the world, and everyone working from home as well. So there's even that more, a lot of time people work at home, and if they've got half an hour scheduled for something, then that's half an hour of their day filled. So when they started calculating the costs, it helped them to make so many more better decisions going forward. And we deal with some very large global corporations, and I'm not going to name drop, but there's one in particular that has been around for a very, very long time.
Oh, yeah.
And You can see it with our account managers. You can see it in the way they approach like RFP documents and going through those those proposal stages, etc. And I can clearly see like how much time is being spent on this, and just it's got to relate back to money, right? So that's interesting. It's interesting. It's got to change though, because I think technology now is just exposing everyone. More often than not, people still had the same. They still had the same mannerisms. They still had the same ethics earlier on in their career, but now because technology is so advanced, it just exposes you to that. You know? When you get an email now, people's expectations are that 12 hours, like that's max. You know, more often than not, if I don't get back to someone on the same day they sent me an email, they lose the plot. Whereas in 2007, when I left work on a Friday, I didn't see my computer until Monday, and like. I didn't have email on my phone, you know, so it's like it was just a clear cut. So I guess as technology evolves, we got to get smarter. No idea how we got to this part of the conversation. You just get the talking juices going, bro. And I think it's because it's Friday afternoon as well.
Well, I heard something from Leila Hormozi. It was about culture. It was quite interesting. The ones that have a controlling culture with the wrong people and a mistrust have longer meetings.
Okay,
right. They have more because they need to control people in order to get the outcome. The businesses with better culture and better leadership have shorter and more efficient and less frequent meetings.
Yeah.
Because the biggest lesson I'm having to learn over and over is I hire people to listen to them. I don't hire them to tell them what to do. I'm buying time and expertise. Yeah. So why the fuck am I, don't do that, do this, don't do that. Like, so, but that's the challenge is like, in my head, let's say I've edited 1,600 videos. I'm not actually that good at it, but I've just learned how to be better at it. So when someone presents an idea, I'm like, yeah, that's not going to work.
Mr. Beast.
Mr. Beast. Yeah, I'm the Mr. Beast of editing. Nah, if I was, no, I'm not Mr. Beast.
Nice.
But I think, okay, there's this person and I'm trying to assess how the future is going to be. So I'm saying your idea isn't good.
This is financial advice.
This is with the video.
Oh, with video editing.
Okay. Yeah, so I've got a staff member with a new business, believe it or not. They stuck it with me.
Okay,
it's still in there.
Nice.
And I would try and influence the process because I think I know what's going to happen. But what I'm actually doing is taking away the innovation and accountability that would mean that they would actually deliver on something. A good example is on the battlefield with there's a guy called Jocko Willink. I love quoting him.
I know him. Yeah,
do you the bald guy that's like savage? Yeah. So he talks about if they're not part of the idea creation, don't understand how it happened, and aren't accountable to the outcome because they didn't make the idea.
Yeah.
When you lose comms out in the battlefield, they're not going to know what to do, and the circumstances have changed. So you can't analyze every component of the future, so it's better to give them the freedom to execute.
Also stems innovation, right? Because you're not going to have all the answers, and like getting outside perspective and allowing them to fail, figure out the right way might actually add value back into your business as a whole, because it may not be something that you've thought about. So I've seen that as well when we hire new staff and want to try and put them into training, onboarding, etc. More often than not, just throwing someone into the deep end essentially and letting them figure it out. There's I don't know if you've seen the movie Catch Me If You Can, Leonardo DiCaprio. His dad, I'm so bad with actors' names. His dad is another famous actor in that movie, the guy who plays his dad, and he uses an analogy there where two mice were dropped into a bucket of cream, right? The one mouse just ended up giving up, drowning, because it got tired. The other one didn't give up, and it just kept scurrying until it turned the cream into butter, and it was able to walk out, right? And I said it really badly. Watch the movie, but that's always stuck with me. So sometimes, throwing someone into the deep end and saying, hey, how would you figure out this problem? Allowing them the freedom to fail, and being able to know when to step in, because you don't want them to go too far off the scales, right? Is probably a better outcome for both of you. And if you look at a company, it's the same thing, allowing people the freedom to innovate themselves or fail themselves as well. That's why I sometimes have a problem with processes. Right?
Yeah, I could sense that. Details, process, admin. Yeah.
But I also feel like processes are quite often there to like,
Fuck shit up, slow it down.
well, yeah, and slow it down.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I like doing things fast,
Yeah,
and if
yeah.
there's a better way to do it, like allow someone to actually give it a go. Don't let a process dictate the outcome. Let the skills that you have like dictate that outcome. It's good to have a framework in place of like do's and don'ts, or what's and nots. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of like a lot of processes and stuff, which is weird because at our company, that's probably one of the things that people call out, like new customers that we get on board who maybe jump from one agency to another, is go, man, your guys' processes are really amazing. I haven't put any of those processes in place. It's not me, trust me. But I have someone who's a real stickler for processes. And so again, I think like him having that, me just having this like out there, that's probably part of the reason why we are so successful. So anyway.
No, it makes sense. There's two things in there. One random relating to the rats thing. There's actually they would put the horrible study. They would put rats in water, and then
they've done worse things.
They've done worse things to rats.
Yeah, okay.
So they would put them in water, and then eventually the rat would give up and just drown. But if they picked out a rat about, let's say 5 minutes in, takes it out, puts it back in, it would outswim all the other rats because it knew there was hope at the end. The second thing you said that was interesting that I've been thinking about is think of all the characteristics you have as a man that you admire about yourself, and how are they earned?
Yeah.
Through churning butter or through churning cream.
Yeah. That's true. It's the hard, it's pressure makes diamonds, right?
Pressure makes diamonds. True salesman, eh? I haven't met a good one that doesn't say that, eh? Oh, you got this one? Yeah, mate. Pressure makes diamonds.
Oh, funny. Man, you just made me think of another one. I don't want to reference who I heard it from.
Okay, it's a surprise.
Well, no, just a lot of people will think I
Kanye
resonate
West.
with that. No, he's very misogynistic.
Oh, Andrew Tate. I like him.
I saw a little clip of it, and I was like, I don't really listen to his stuff, but you probably heard it as well, and could probably reiterate it better than me. But about the monkeys that they put in a cage. You read that one?
Yeah, tell us though.
Oh, I'm gonna fuck it up.
Yeah,
definitely.
Well, pressure makes diamonds.
So they put 6 monkeys in a cage. I can't even remember if it matters how many. I'm really doing this just trying to remember. Anyway, so 6 monkeys in a cage.
Yeah.
And they put a water spout up the top. Oh no, they put a banana up the top.
Yeah.
And then as the one monkey tries to get this banana, they spray all the other monkeys with water, right? And so they all learn not to go up there. But then they slowly start to swap out 1 week another monkey. All of a sudden, they get to the end, and no monkeys are even trying to get the banana, right? But none of them know why. So that's the very short version.
Yeah, no, it's a good one. They even do it with humans getting them to stand up. So one stands up every time there's a ding. So you have more people than the one.
Yep.
So there's one person that doesn't know, 5 people that know. Ding, stand up. So they just stand up. They don't know why. Yep. Ding, stand up, and then they remove people, and then they all just going up and down.
That's bizarre.
But I think that's an important thing just in life, is to understand why you think the way you do and what's led that. Like, take, for example, Michelin star.
Yeah.
Do you know where that came from?
It's got something. No, I actually don't, but it's the tire company, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so this tire company realized, oh, wait, people aren't driving enough. We want them to buy more tires. Let's make up some places they should go.
Oh, okay. Nice.
And now we determine the quality of a restaurant based on the tire company's perception.
It is bizarre. It is really bizarre.
And speaking of long-term relationships, marriage, diamonds, do you know that story?
Well, I know that diamonds aren't actually as rare as what people make them out to be, thanks to the De Beer family.
Yeah,
from South Africa, funnily enough.
Well, there you go. You should know, actually.
yeah.
Where do diamonds come from? Yeah, so same concept. It's like, so you have this person that has a monopoly of diamonds. Let's say it's a company.
Limit the supply, increase the value.
Yeah, so they limited the supply, and then they did a campaign that linked diamonds to being a girl's best friend and helping them, get engaged. So now they instilled this artificial value on a resource that's not scarce, which is the fundamentals aspects of value. If it's scarce, it's valuable.
Yeah, exactly.
And then restrict the supply.
Yeah, and it's actually not that scarce at all. And now you can actually make it in a factory and make it better than what the earth can make it, more pure, but those are worth less.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy. They use like some of the best diamonds, like the purest diamonds that you can make for drill bits and all that sort of stuff, because it's all artificially made. They have zero imperfections in them.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, you're a resident diamond expert. Eh?
No,
South Africans,
well,
You and Elon Musk. He had a what did he have? Like rock. Like his family did something with rocks, like fancy rocks. What's a fancy rock?
Rubies.
Yeah, like that.
Okay. I didn't know that. I know his dad's a bit of a psycho.
Yeah, not nice.
Yeah. Did you watch that doco with him?
A little
it's
bit.
It's like a four episode series.
Yeah,
it's really, really interesting.
Is he potentially an evil genius or a net gain for the world?
I think you have to be slightly psychotic to be able to perform the way he does. Like, there's definitely an element there. Like, and I think you can tell by even listening to his mum and his dad. Like, there's definitely something in him and stuff that he's seen in the past that has definitely helps him. But I mean, the fact that he hired the first 4,000 staff members at SpaceX and was in every single one of the interviews, because he said you can ask an engineer something, and if you can just immediately be able to tell whether he solved that problem or whether someone underneath him solved that problem. And so he's just able to call people out like that. I think he's really good at reading bullshit. Like, he's one of those people that'll just look straight through you. But yeah, I mean, he's a bit of a weirdo, right? I mean, how many wives has he had? How many kids has he got? He loves procreation. He thinks the world's going to die because of we're not having enough kids. And
is that true? Do you think? I think so. But you don't.
You think
agree?
so? No, I'm not good enough at math. I trust that the mathematicians would have called him out on that by now. But it's an interesting outlook. Put it that way. Like, he believes we all need to have like 5 kids or something to like stabilize it back up, and the fact that China has had just 1 kid per family for so long, and the fact that there's so many of them is going to have a much larger impact on the world than anyone ever knows. He reckons, doesn't he think China is going to be one of the first countries to have a massive downfall because of that?
Probably. I don't know of that one, but that makes sense.
Yeah.
I like putting my financial advisor hat on. Even just in New Zealand, we're fucked. You can't afford to pay for the old people.
Yeah, and there's so many of them, right? And what do? We productize retirement homes. We try to make as much money out of the old people as we can. Yet, it's weird how we operate in this world, eh?
Yeah, well, yeah. You think about it. So you're deliberately destroying the environment. You're not you specifically. Maybe you do. I do. I drive a lot.
I use stuff that does. Yeah, I mean, this thing in my pocket. I only just recently realized that battery that's in there. I don't really care so much about what it's doing to the world's weather, because I think global warming is a bit of a money making.
Oh, okay. Anyway. Let's open that door.
But I don't think we definitely have an impact on the temperature in the world. But I don't. Okay. I think humans, we have this. We think so much of ourselves, right? That we have been able to put that at the forefront, where there's so many volcanoes that pop off every day that have much bigger impact on our world's temperatures than what we could ever have in 10,000 years, right? Anyway, I'm not going to go down that track.
My mum would come after you, right?
People are going to hate me. But hey, it's a debate, right? You got to look at both sides of the coin.
Be brave.
But no, what I was talking about is the actual how they're getting the lithium out of the ground. That's the real shit part. And that's the part that resonates with me more. So the whole sustainability is a big thing. Even in e-commerce now, people are trying to offset their carbon footprints and sourcing sustainable materials to make their products worth and conveying that message. But what I find, it's more important for a lot of these organizations to be able to tick the box, to be able to say that they are, rather than to, like, that's their focus more than let's make it an ethos and just try and source ethically sourced products, right? It's more like, no, what do we need to do to be able to tick that box? And the minute we move on, because it's profit and loss, right? So, but yeah, I mean, the lithium batteries, feel free to go listen to Joe Rogan. He is an expert in the field on there. People in mines in Africa, like, dying daily, getting like swallowed by rock avalanches and stuff, and working in the worst environments, all for us to walk around and be able for you to cold call me and say, hey, come jump on my podcast.
I slaughtered some South Africans for nothing. It's a pretty fucked up
world that we live in, if you think about it that way. And I'm more than happy to have a debate with your mum about global warming.
Well, I think you highlighted something there that's important. And I think so much of life is spent living someone else's life. So it's a status-driven world.
Oh, I hate it. I absolutely hate it. Oh, I hate it.
Go on. What's another polarizing topic? So global warming's a myth. What else did you say?
But no, that what you just mentioned there is a great. I guess it's something that everyone should be aware of, because there are so many people in this world who either are doing what they're doing to please their parents, right? They're not actually doing what they love. They're doing what they're doing because their parents told them to do that. That just closes you off, right? Like, I mean, are you living your own life or not? And how are you going to get over that? You're going to have to upset your parents, right? So lucky I got that out of the way.
Yeah, I had sensed that. Dad's approval.
But anyway.
Daddy issues much?
Not much. What was I saying?
I used to talk about your daddy issues is what I heard. What on the approval part, what was so there's a book I like called The Way of a Superior Man, and it talks about that you got to live as though your father's dead.
I hate books, by the way.
Yeah, I don't read anymore, but I read before and then now I've stopped. Legit, probably someone that's
okay, cool.
Yeah, so you got to live as though the expectations of your father are dead. So a lot of people either live to not be their father, live to earn the approval of their father. So what has been your lessons, because you deviated from the path?
Yeah. And
you would have probably had a bit of friction in your relationship.
Lots.
Yeah, I can see it. You
could
fucking tighten it up. The pressure of the diamond is coming. So what has been your lesson? Like, let's say a young man's listening to this and there's this troubled connection with their father.
Yeah.
What has helped you either forgive, accept, or move on?
I think just pull that Band-Aid off. You're going to have to pull that Band-Aid off at some point, because otherwise you're never going to be happy, right? So it's actually realizing, okay, what is it that's going to make you happy? At the end of the day, you're the one that have to live your life. Your dad's not living your life, right? And you're not going to be able to live with your dad forever, okay? He's not going to allow you. So rather do something that you feel comfortable with doing and suits your natural skills. Like, I think being able to identify what your strengths and weaknesses are has an impact on what career or what pursuit you're going to go after, right? And if you're allowing other people to control that, you'll never be happy. So on the flip side of that, blood is thicker than water, okay? So if you are going to upset your dad, you might have a little period of time that'll go by, but time heals most things, especially when it comes to family. Friends or acquaintances, that's where the water side of things are a bit more. That just starts flowing in different directions, right? But I mean, if I have to give anyone advice, if you're currently doing something that you're not loving and you're doing it to please other people, especially family, that's probably the easiest one, because family will always love you for other reasons, right? And I'm a first-hand account of that. And you just have to take that plaster off, let it bleed, and then start healing. I don't know if that answered your question.
Nah, Dad, you're doing well.
Sweet.
I'm just checking. I've got another 20 minutes. You got freedom.
I'm in no rush. All good, man. Yeah.
Just on the question of love.
Wow. Now we jumped.
Yeah, well, you said you go in these relationships.
Sure.
You got it all worked out. Fixed everything with your dad. So what are your thoughts on people loving you in the best way they can, but it's not always good? Like your father, for example, or someone else. You don't have to, single them out.
Well, I think it's they have a perception and you have a perception, and neither of you are right, because if we were all right all the time, then what a world we'll be living in. So I think it's just identifying that there are certain things that are core to your being that if they don't align with someone else's way of thinking or their expectations of you, then you got one of two ways to go. You can go down that route and change yourself, but trust me, I've done that in a relationship before, where I kind of changed myself to fit, because I didn't want to lose that
people
relationship.
Pleasing.
Yeah, I didn't want to lose that person. There were just too many good things, but there was one super critical piece, and it just festered and it festered and it festered, and then after 5 years, it becomes a massive bomb that explodes, and it just makes you more unhappy the whole way through. So, I think just being yourself, like, you just have to be yourself, right? The minute you're trying to pretend to be someone that you're not, whether that be in a relationship with your family, whatever, in any love situation, you're actually doing more harm than good.
You're doing well with these questions. I didn't know I was going to ask them.
Yeah, I didn't think you were. I thought we were going to be talking about e-commerce, websites, COVID, digital world. Yeah, fuck it. Who cares?
Well, in the sense that even the people that want that problem solved
Yeah.
and are curious don't actually give a fuck to a point. They give a fuck to solve the problem.
Yeah. I want to something
yeah,
that you
go on.
mentioned earlier that sort of sprung to mind, which I think you might find interesting.
Go on.
I don't know if you've heard it before. Probably have. You seem like a well-educated man.
I like to pretend.
Not the Sultan, the Emperor of Dubai. I think that's what they call him.
I don't know,
Whatever.
actually.
The royal family there.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
once interviewed him. Mohammed bin Salman, I think. Fuck, if I just remembered that. I
Bro,
don't know
you're
where I pulled that out of, but
diamonds.
if that's him, maybe. If it's not, sorry, sir. But anyway, the call it.
Yeah, if you're
bin
listening.
Salman, whatever. If you're listening, one of the millions of people listening. No, he said my great grandfather rode a camel. My grandfather rode a Toyota. My dad rode a Mercedes. I drive a Rolls Royce. My son will drive a Rolls Royce. His son will drive a Mercedes. His son will drive a Toyota, and his son will ride a camel. Right? And he's made peace with that because he says great times make weak people. And that's always stuck with me. Kind of relates to what we were talking about before. Pressure makes diamonds. I think sometimes you have to put yourself in uncomfortable situations because it makes you a better person. And those people who steer away from those, they tend to fail. They tend to be unhappy, unsuccessful. You name it. All the results of not being yourself, essentially. So yeah.
Well, a lot of people I talk to are fearful of being themselves because of the potential cost. And the interesting thing, at least from an outside perspective, is they have nothing to lose because they don't have anything.
But they think they've got everything to lose.
Yeah, because they're protecting the unhealthy habitual way they've approached life because it's helped them survive a tough moment.
Yeah.
So it's like an external thing happened as a child or in their development, internalized. Now they interact with the external world from their new internally crafted world. So in a sense, you actually have to die internally and retrain that component in order to know who you are.
I love that. That's why, forest fires are a perfect example of that. Forests get destroyed for there to be like much better times ahead and much more fruitful I don't even know the word.
I know what you're saying, yeah.
Bushfires,
then all the fire, all the koalas with chlamydia have been washed out of the way. They'll go to hug this, 80% have chlamydia. Did you ever go to Australia? No?
I had been to Australia.
Did you hug a koala?
I poked one. Man, they were way...
You got chlamydia
they
now.
weren't... Oh, really?
80% of them have chlamydia.
Ooh, I don't think I've got chlamydia. I think I'd know.
You wouldn't. No, it's not many symptoms.
Oh,
I got it when I was 18. Lost my virginity, got chlamydia and penile thrush. Fun fact. Yeah.
Okay.
Try to kill it with vinegar. That's not a good idea.
God, where's the wood? Oh, here. Never had any of those. Proof that I'm not that I don't sleep around. I'm not like
yeah.
Bloody
Well, yeah, I'm a
dog.
free spirit. Yeah, I lived in a hippie community for a long time.
To bring back to what you were saying
It's
before.
a business.
No, not business even. This is more personal life. I see a lot of, in an ex-relationship that I had, there was a young person, a kid involved. It was not my kid. But I learned a lot from it. And it's actually sort of stuck with me. And I see a lot of young parents make these mistakes. They try and shelter their kids from social media, right? And shelter them from technology. When what they're actually doing is harm, because the future that kid has to live in is all centered around that. So you can pull him away from it to shelter him and make him what you wanted, or her, what you want, but you're actually causing more harm in the long term because of that sort of sheltering them from it. There's definitely like controlling techniques and all that, but I think one of the biggest things people don't instill, especially in younger people, they try to hide them from these things, but the big thing that they need to do is actually prop up their self-esteem. Like that's what you need. The way you're going to be able to combat all the nasty shit that comes from, this social media world and all that sort of, everyone's exposed basically, is having a good self-esteem. And so I see parents focusing on device time and keeping their kids away from social media and all that sort of stuff. And then it has such a detrimental effect because they're not cool at school. You're basically removing that kid from the environment that they need to live in for more hours in the day than what you're with them for the 3 hours at nighttime before you send them to bed, right? But in that time, if you could just prop up their self-esteem, then this harmful stuff that does come from outside, people are going to get affected. But the more stronger your self-esteem is, the more you'll be able to know the techniques on how to deal with that, or the less it will bother you, you know? So
it's valid. I think
there's my life advice for all you young parents, which I'm not even one, so who am I to talk, hey?
listen here, you fucking
Sometimes all you need is an outside perspective, man.
Yeah, it's all of this. It's a lot easier to point and do instead of do. Well, I think suffering's inevitable.
Yeah.
So either you have a reason to suffer, so you need purpose, and you need the character to enable you to continue going in the face of suffering. So that's the cost of a caring parent. You know, they want to protect their family at the cost of their future.
Yeah, and that's a thin line to walk, right? Like, because you don't know what you're doing right now, the harmful effects that it might have in the future. And you see this with some radical people as well. More often than not, those people who end up doing these radical things, they had parents who tried to keep them, try to control their lives. Homeschooling is a massive one. And when you see the ratio of psychopaths, this is legit, go check it out. Oh, yeah.
Homeschool psychopaths.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell my mate.
It's actually scary.
Yeah.
I'm not saying everyone that's homeschooled is psychopaths, but
he's successful.
There are some studies out there. I encourage you to go look at it. It's actually scary. So social environments is where it is, and now that social environments have moved online, you can't just not be there. Well, that's a choice you can have if you're our age. I don't know how old you are. I'm like late 30s. 32. There you go. That's a choice we can now consciously make, but we're not being molded by the world anymore. We're adapting to a world. We were molded when we were between 4 and 9 years old, that type of thing. So anyway, very philosophical chat. Really appreciate it.
We're coming to a conclusion.
You want to buy a website?
2 easy installments of 15 grand. Is it? How much is it? I mean, it's project to project, and you never say the price.
Oh, nah. I mean, depends what you want to build, really. Yeah. Like, you could build a website. I build my own websites for people. I sometimes charge as little as $1,000, Hey. I sometimes...
What's the most
I'm working with, the Women's Refuge right now. They just really need someone to do a couple of small things for them, and they just can't find anyone. And if they weren't a charity, I wouldn't work with them. But I'm, doing, 10 hours worth of work for them, It's like chump change, $600. I'm not going to make any money out of that. But, again, it's that feel-good feeling. It's balancing yes, you have got a successful career here, but sometimes your successful career also gets a little bit dry and boring, and having these other things that you get out of bed for. So, but I mean, the most expensive website I've ever sold is probably 2.4 million.
Oh, actual.
Yeah.
Was it performance based, or you just check
e-commerce website? But it's all the strategy. It's all replatforming them over to Shopify Plus, putting in all the strategies, and that wasn't an upfront lump sum payment. I'm looking at it cool. Where did we take them from, let's say, 2020 till now, and how much money have they spent with us?
Wow, Isn't it stupid that, there's not too much difference between the 2.5 million and charging someone 1,000 in the sense of work? There's some extrapolation.
But the customer, more often than not, there's the old adage of a $500 customer that sends you the money and then goes, hey, I'll transfer you that $500. We're in bed together now. We're going to make this a success, and everything hinges on that. And then you've got the $50,000 customer that just sends you a message saying, I've sent you a PO number.
Yeah. I've got to learn that. My self-worth has to get up to that price. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I mean, it's actually what I find is the smaller projects are more more time consuming.
Yeah, it's true.
More chances to be derailed than the much, much larger ones.
Bizarre.
It is crazy.
But you feel bad.
Yeah, you need the budget though, eh? So
yeah,
not everyone has the types of money to just splash around $2 million for a 2-year strategy. But anyway,
well, if you're listening, the guy, Mohammed something? What did he say?
Mohammed bin Salman. I think that's his name. I don't even know where I got that from. It might not even, because I think wasn't the Burj Khalifa. I think maybe his dad's name was Khalifa or something. But anyway, he's the one who built the biggest building in the world.
Wow.
I just went a bit. Have you been to Dubai?
No.
Have you never been to the Middle East?
Jordan and Israel.
Okay.
Tried to go to Iran. They didn't like me.
Right. I've heard.
Don't go in that sequence.
I've heard Jordan. What's the Riyadh? Is Riyadh?
Oh, I don't know. I was there a day.
Oh, okay.
Israel was there a while. That was fun.
Nice.
I read
I strongly, if you can even just catch a connecting flight through Dubai, I think it's really. I went there recently, and it was a massive eye opener. when you realize how much money is in this
Yeah.
world. It's wild. And then you think the UAE, Dubai apparently has 5% of the wealth, and Abu Dhabi has 95% of the wealth. And then I didn't go to Abu Dhabi, but you just go walk around Dubai and you're just like, how?
Wow.
How? And they build everything so fast, and it just comes down to money. But anyway, I encourage you to do that.
Yeah, okay. Well, if
Stop,
you're
man.
listening in Dubai
Yeah.
and Mohammed something,
Bin Salman.
been summer, we think. If you're listening, brother, we'll do a deal, $10 million website over 3 years. Fucking
That's
bomb.
chump change to him, mate.
It is. It's crazy.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But
Well, thanks
man,
for coming on.
I appreciate it. Honestly, it's been a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
Usually, like I said, my podcast, everything's like super structured, and I'm the one that derails it because I'm like,
Process, gross.
look, 10 minutes before we do an episode, I'll have some notes and that someone else has done, or etc. And then I just derail the thing all the way through. And I guess I had an idea of what this was going to be
Feels
like
like-
today, and it had nothing to do with that. But I had a good time, and really nice to meet you. And new fan of your podcast anyway. So I've got about 300 episodes to catch up on by the looks of it.
Yeah, just start from here.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Sweet,
Thanks.
man. Thanks.
Done.